You are 41 years old, an American, and a criminal defense attorney licensed in the state of Texas. You built your practice from nothing. 14 years of courtrooms, briefs, and motions filed before sunrise. You are not a criminal. You want to be very clear about that. You are a lawyer. You believe in the system. You believe that every person, no matter what they are accused of, deserves the best possible legal defense. That is not a moral weakness. That is the foundation of every free society on earth. You learned that in law school. You believed it on the day you passed the bar exam. You still believe it now, sitting in a federal holding facility at 6:47 in the morning, waiting for a client whose real name you have never been told. His name on the paperwork is Ernesto Vidal. He is 52 years old, born in Culiacan, Mexico, and currently facing 23 federal charges, including conspiracy to distribute narcotics and organized criminal enterprise. The government believes he moves $4.2 million worth of methamphetamine across the Texas border every 31 days. You do not know if that is true. Your job is not to know if it is true. Your job is to make the government prove it. You took the case because a man named Ruben Salcido called your office on a Wednesday afternoon and offered you $180,000 as a retainer. You asked no questions you were not supposed to ask. Ruben said the family wanted the best. Ruben said they had heard your name from 3 different people. You felt something move inside your chest when he said that. Not fear, not greed exactly, but something closer to recognition. Someone had been watching you work. Your wife, Diana, poured coffee the morning after you signed the retainer agreement. She looked at the number on the bank confirmation and did not say anything for a long time. She asked you once carefully whether you knew what kind of family this was. You told her that knowing and proving are 2 different things. She nodded and looked out the kitchen window, and you both understood that something had shifted between you, something small but irreversible. The first trial lasted 19 days. You dismantled the government's chain of custody evidence on a wiretap obtained through a procedural error on day 7. You filed a suppression motion that the judge granted on a Thursday. By Friday afternoon, Ernesto Vidal walked out of a federal courthouse in Houston, with his tie straightened and his face completely without expression. Ruben Salcido shook your hand in the parking lot and told you that the family was grateful. 3 weeks later, $220,000 appeared in your trust account. That was $40,000 above the agreed fee. You sat with that number for 2 days. You called your accountant. You documented everything carefully and reported it correctly. You told yourself that a fee is a fee, that the work was legitimate, that the outcome was legal. You deposited the money and took Diana to a dinner she had been asking about for 6 months. You are not naive. You understood at some point, around month 4 of working with Ruben's referrals, that you had become something specific inside a larger structure. You were the mechanism by which certain men returned to the street. You told yourself that every defense attorney in America performs exactly this function. The difference is only in the scale. But you knew that was not entirely honest. The cases kept coming. A logistics coordinator named Felipe, charged with money laundering across 3 states. A man who went only by Toro, facing federal weapons charges and 2 state-level assault counts. Each case was more complex than the last. Each retainer was larger. By the end of your 2nd year working this territory, your annual income had risen from $310,000 to just over $1.1 million. You moved your family into a house in River Oaks with 4 bedrooms and a pool that Diana never used. You want to say that you noticed the warnings. You want to say that you were always watching carefully. But the truth is that comfort dulls the part of the mind that asks difficult questions. You were excellent at your job. The work was genuinely interesting. The legal puzzles were real, and solving them required everything you had. You told yourself that your talent deserved this arena. Your daughter Maya turned 9 that spring. She drew a picture at school of her family. She drew you at a desk with a phone to your ear. Her teacher asked her what her father did for work. Maya said, "You helped people who were in trouble." She was not wrong. That picture stayed on your refrigerator for 11 months. The defining moment did not feel like a defining moment. It felt like a Tuesday. Ruben called at 8:15 in the morning and asked you to meet a man named Castellano at an address in Pasadena. He said it was a consultation. He said it would take an hour. You drove there yourself, which was already a mistake. because everything after that was connected to a location that put you inside a building you should never have entered. Castellano was not a defendant. Castellano was a fixer. He wanted you to help structure a legal argument that would protect a real estate acquisition, one that you understood within 12 minutes of the conversation, was built entirely on laundered proceeds. You did not walk out immediately. That is the truth you carry. You sat there for another 23 minutes, asked clarifying questions, took 1 page of notes on a yellow legal pad. You left without committing to anything, but you had been in that room. You had listened. You had not immediately refused. And Castellano, you would later understand, had recorded the entire conversation on a device smaller than a watch battery. The federal investigation into your conduct began 8 months after that Tuesday. You did not know about it for 4 of those months. The first indication was a subpoena for your billing records going back 36 months. You called your own attorney, a man named Gerald Foss, who had represented lawyers in disciplinary proceedings for 22 years, and he listened to everything you said without interrupting. When you finished, Gerald was quiet for a moment. He said the billing records were the beginning, not the end. Diana found the subpoena on your desk on a Saturday evening. She read it slowly, standing in your office in the light from your desk lamp. She did not cry. She asked you a question you had no honest answer for. She asked whether any of it, the house, the school fees, Maya's riding lessons, the dinner she loved, whether any of it had been clean. You told her the legal work had always been legitimate. She nodded. She slept in the guest room that night and every night for the following 3 weeks. The Texas State Bar opened its own inquiry 6 weeks after the federal subpoena. You hired Gerald and a second attorney named Patricia Haynes, who specialized in federal ethics violations. Their combined retainer cost you $95,000. You paid it from the same accounts that were now under examination. The irony was not lost on you. You were never charged with a crime. That is the truth, and you hold it like a piece of bone. The federal investigation stalled at the evidentiary threshold. Your notes from the Castellano meeting, analyzed by the government's own experts, showed no explicit agreement and no completed act. You had sat in a room. You had listened. You had left. The law requires more than proximity, but the bar did not require the same standard. The disciplinary panel suspended your license for 18 months based on a finding of conduct involving moral turpitude. Specifically, your failure to immediately withdraw from a conversation you understood to be related to criminal enterprise. 18 months. You sat in that hearing room and received that finding, and your face did not move. You are sitting now in the kitchen of a smaller house in a neighborhood Diana never wanted to live in. She took Maya to her mother's in Austin 4 months ago. She calls every Sunday at 6 p.m., so Maya can speak with you for 14 minutes. Maya still draws pictures. She has not drawn you in any of them for a long time. You think sometimes about the man you were at 27, standing in the parking lot of the courthouse after your very first trial, feeling something close to joy at the simplicity of the law. You had believed that skill and principle were the same thing. You had believed that a good lawyer was a good person doing good work. You had believed that the system was clean enough to hold you. You understand now that you did not keep the cartel out of courtrooms. You were the mechanism that the cartel built to enter them. You were the clean part of a dirty machine. You were not a criminal. You were something the system had no clean word for.